a team of 3. 2 of them are not here, unfortunately, but also fortunately, because one of them is in Tokyo, one of them is in Frankfurt. This is the first time we collaborated, and we continue to collaborate. I had recently come back from the US. The girls had recently graduated, so we felt like it was the right time for us to take upon this quite large-scale project. The project operates at the seam between architecture, landscape, and urbanism as a mechanism to improve the life in the city center of Jakova. Again, we didn't have an office. We operated in a small kitchen of Ritas. We were a local team. That was a huge advantage for us. We paid a lot of site visits, talked to the locals, walked the site, really understand it, what are its potentials and its flaws, and where we could intervene. We started to think about what are some of the ingredients or some of these essentials that would make the city of Jakova this self-sustainable, all-inclusive, accessible city. I'm not going to mention any of them. You can read if you want. So our approach, a little bit about the city of Jakova. The first settlements of the city as we know it today happened in the late 17th century. We have on the west Chabrati Hill, and as you can see there are 3 rivers in and around the city. So the river Krena, the one to the west, somehow created this boundary between the historic town on the west and the modern city in the east of it. So it became more of a boundary than sort of a connecting point. So Jakova fell into the category of how to transform physical obstacles into new connections. So looking at the city scale again, we saw the site as this green hinge that would mediate and reconcile the city parks. We have the big Chabrati Hill on the west, Shugza Park on the south, and the river Krena right in the middle of the city. Somehow the city has turned its back to the river, and people are completely disconnected with the river somehow. So again, looking at the functions in the city before and after the conflict. So there's infrastructure that could facilitate a lot of the functions for the city to actually function. Some of them are not used, so there was a lot of there would be a lot of revitalization that would need to happen in order for these to be reactivated. And we really didn't focus about a lot of the architecture so much as the public realm, and we introduced very few architectural elements in the site. We thought about how people move in or around the city, and we wanted to create a city center that's really pedestrian based. There's a lot of cars and car pollution, and so we wanted to free up the city center, and that way the movement is more flowing and moving on. So the main idea was to create these cross axes in the city from one side of the river to the other, at the same time somehow inhabiting that border, that line, and reactivating it with activities and spaces that could be adaptable for different events. And bringing people, again, reattaching the citizen with water and how the water plays a role in their lives. Some of these, the very simple design elements we used, we want to create diversity of zones along the river. As a framework for adaptable transformation of space, we wanted a continuous promenade along the river for pedestrians and cyclists, crossing the river and how we inhabit that space in the riverbanks. And these are the architectural components, pavilions and terraces that really overlook the historic town, and somehow they're learning and information points more than buildings, let's say. This allowed for this diverse edge conditions at the river. We have somehow compression and release of spaces along the river. In order for that to happen, we had to rethink the urban fabric a little bit and how we can physically craft the city and ethically manipulate it so that it allows for freedom of movement and social activities. The demolition plan consists of mostly temporary and informal commercial use structures, 90% of it. And we propose a new incision of new urban infill that would complement the scale and the context. And at the same time accommodate the displaced function from the demo plan. We rethought the multiple modes of movement and transportation. Again, we proposed a shared street wherever there's cars. There would be sort of non-vertical elevation change, so it would be all flat, that people would feel kind of free to move bicycles, cars. That way it's one-way traffic. We also proposed a treasure trail, that's what we call, that would be a trail marked with some sort of material that would be a learning experience, a journey into history, cultural heritage, local values, the religious diversity and attractions and water. Here on the west we have the Grand Bazaar. They say it's the largest in Balkans, larger than the one in Sarajevo. It got totally destructed during the conflict, but rebuilt after. So quickly, the components, the nitty-gritty of the project, we thought about it in 3 different zones, as the northernmost zone as socially active, as a welcoming portion of the site, welcome to Jakova kind of thing. The middle one is a melting pot where the commercial, institutional things happen. And the last one is more of a community-based, a little quieter. So again, a threshold at the main intersection when you enter the city from Pristina or Peja. There's a city park that would lead you in to the site. We proposed a living room, a space that you could go and read, or it could be activated during the night. Again, referencing the city landmarks. I don't know if you can see, maybe you can see the background line. Anyways, a senior garden where this year we had, Jakova had the European Championship in chess. So there's a lot of people that play chess, and creating an environment for them to relax and socialize. This is one of the main areas. We called it Flex Plaza. It could be used as a exhibition, open exhibition space, open cinema. The riverbanks could be used as the auditorium on the other side, formal gathering, institutional or celebratory, festival. So it was really important for us to kind of draw these activities and draw the people because that's who we're designing for. In this case, this came through in all the drawings and plans and sections. Again, on the other side, we have this continuous promenade that would somehow reconnect you to the city, and you could see the references points in the city. A reality check, here's the current conditions. It's really underutilized. The riverbanks are not used at all, either for walking purposes or any other purposes. It's a lot of sewage is poured into the water, unfortunately. However, there's this lush green that we found it kind of beautiful, and why not bring people close to the water. There we have, we call it Keitel, a little more neighborhoody park space with a community center. That building is not used at all, so why not revitalize it? So there was a lot of more adaptive reuse approach to the existing buildings rather than introducing new buildings. Providing parking as well. The art scene right really close to the music school center, reactivating one of the buildings as Arts and Crafts Academy. Again, the continuous path with referencing the city's monuments, the mosque in this case, in the background. The melting pot is where everything kind of intersects. We have the municipality building there, the healthcare, the ethnographic museum, etc. Again, access points down to the water. The topography is quite difficult. At the same time, very interesting for us. Creating a zone where it's a little quieter, a transition between that socially active and the melting pot. Creating these terraces, as you can see here, that would overlook the historic center. Rethinking Fusha Sahatit, where the clock tower is, and introducing a winter garden where the healthcare building is. An alley that would bring you, again, would reconnect the, I don't know if you can see the drawings at all. Okay. That would reconnect the Grand Bazaar with the water, and on the other side of Mother Teresa Boulevard. Introducing a performance space, the commercial strip. Again, here's a reality check. This is the existing conditions of these really neglected buildings that it's really also not safe to go by. Reactivating them, again inhabiting the water or the spaces along it. On the other side, there's a market, the City Hall steps creating an opening that's really seamless from the municipality building, the communion. There's a play zone. There's the existing school, primary school, so we introduced an outdoor classroom, an elderly center really nearby, so rethinking about all different age groups and including a community garden, rain garden at the very end. So I'm sorry I really ran through quickly through these, but you can see kind of we started to think about this all-inclusive, self-sustaining, accessible public realm that would be as this vehicle for improving the lives of citizens in Jakova. So the outcome, we saw this as a system, a complex network of spaces and landmarks that stitch the historic time with the modern city. And the city would be a compact and diverse entity that promotes cultural heritage and public spaces. This is also accessed during the night and in all 4 seasons, so creating a safe environment and efficient. We go back to this main idea that creating a comprehensive and self-sustaining city. There's a relationship of spaces on both sides of the river and along the river. And all this creates a framework that reveals, facilitates interactions and preserves a sense of community. Some of the expected benefits: healthy space for living, working and recreation, visual attraction, increase of property value, opportunities for play and children's education, pedestrian and bike paths, connection with the nature, promotion of cultural heritage and identity for the city.